So, trigger warning, there are a lot of sex offenders out there who have a low IQ or intellectual disabilities. Let's talk about it. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. I've talked to you all, sorry, there's rain, it's like heavy rain. I've talked to you all over the years about my work in working with the sex offender population in the Department of Corrections. And one of the things that I've shared with you all about, especially working with men, is, how hard it was. There were a lot of them grown men who could not read or write or comprehend what they read and be able to sort of reiterate or summarize what they've read. And this is something that runs rampant in the sex offender community, particularly child sex offenders, is intellectual disabilities and things like that, cognitive disabilities, where, and I definitely think that there is definitely a link between sex offenses, or just between low IQ in prison. There's a strong linkage there, and what I have found is that people who struggle with this or have these challenges, they often struggle with impulse control, meaning they don't think through the consequences. They're not able to say, hey, if I do this, then this will happen as a result of my actions. It also can help to explain why people with low IQ prefer children or someone who's young and gullible and naive and pliable for them, because again, there's not a lot that they know. And so in order for them to feel like they're in power, they have to have someone that is a little what they perceive to be a lot less challenging, intellectually challenging, or a lot less smarter than they are, because they want to be the powerful one. They want to be the one in control and dominate the relation. So a child is a lot, there's a lot less effort that it takes, unfortunately, for them to intimidate and assault a child than it would, like, for example, a grown woman in some cases, someone who might fight back in some cases. And I'm not saying this is always the case, but just so you know, just how they're thinking. So they want someone that they could easily control, or they could lie to and tell, to lure them away and to trap them, in other words. Those who have intellectual disabilities or low IQ also use that to their advantage. They tend to feign a lot more, that they know a lot less than what they actually do. So what they will do is they will use that because they've already been, tested or diagnosed with something. And so they'll use that to pretend to be a lot more, like they don't know what they know, even if they know it, if that makes sense. So an example would be, I'm pretending like I don't understand certain things when I know that I understand certain things. And by pretending to not understand certain things, that allows me to get away with certain things. A good example of this, and again, things could have changed since I worked in corrections, but a lot of people, at least at where I was, a lot of people weren't in prison necessarily for child sex offenses, who had a history of child sex offenses. What they were in prison for was failure to register. So that was probably one of the top things that I've seen in terms of sexual predators. It's not necessarily always for the offense, it's for the failure to register. So they've been able to be evasive for a number of years. And whenever, law enforcement or whoever catches up to them, what they'll do is they'll pretend like they didn't know, or they don't have enough cognitive skill sets to know how to go about registering and doing what they're supposed to do. And so they'll use their intellectual disability to their advantage. And I've even seen them do this once they're incarcerated. When they're incarcerated, they still pretend like they don't know how to follow rules and instructions and boundaries, or they don't understand what you said. And you have to get loud, you have to get aggressive, and let people know what time it is so that they can back up, because what they'll try to do is they'll pretend like they don't understand you, bump into you, and drag you by your neck into a room. So it literally only takes a few seconds. But I've seen men try to do that time and again. One of the other ways that I've seen it happen in prison is, they pretend like they don't understand me, or they don't understand the rules of the prison. At least here in my world, in prison world, every man who's in prison, his hands must be on the table at all times. They got to be where I can see him. Any man who's done time, they know that, at least here. And so whenever I see a man, he's like reaching his hands up. Get your hands up and put them where I can see them. Don't do that. Nothing pisses me off more than I see a man reaching his hands out. I don't like for men to put their hands down. But that works with some women. I can't tell you how many times they've used that, and what they've been doing is they've been masturbating themselves. I hope I could say that here. Masturbating themselves to women, and to my colleagues. But with me, it does not work. And they'll pretend like they don't know that their hands aren't supposed to be where you can see them. And like they don't know the rules and they don't understand. That's why I never sat down in my correctional career. When I did groups and stuff, I never ever sat down. I never sit at the table with sex offenders. I was the only one who did that. So there's a number of people who, got comfortable and sat at a table and ran things as per usual. Not me. And when he doesn't, when he doesn't put his hands where I can see him, I already know what type of time he's on. So he's getting ready to do something that he's got no business doing, when he doesn't put his hands where I can see him. And he's hoping that I don't call him out, because that'll give him a chance to do what he wants to do. So you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. I've also seen, sexual predators do this in the healthcare setting. I think I've shared this with you all, where they will pretend to not understand, be, a little bit more incapacitated than what they actually are. And what they're hoping is some young, pretty nurse or some young, pretty physical therapist will put their hands on them and help them, because that's their way of getting gratification. That's their way of being touched. So they'll pretend like they can't follow exercises, and like they're not like they can't comprehend what you're telling them. And then again, all it takes is a few seconds for them to get physical and strike. So while low IQ and intellectual disability is certainly a thing with sex offenders, it's also something which they use to manipulate, to violate, and become more violent. They use that in a way to get you to keep your guard down, feel sorry for them, and to get away with stuff. I, for one, I think they use it to become a lot more evasive and more skilled at offending. So that's something you want to be careful with. Thanks so much. I hope this helps.